Hello radio enthusiasts, welcome to another video about early radio from the Roaring Twenties Antique Radio Museum. In this video we will showcase an historic early radio station that could arguably be called the first commercially licensed radio station to go on the air, radio station WWJ in Detroit. Fascinated by the development of radio since he was a boy, Detroit newspaper publisher William E. Scripps realized that radio was going to change how news would be delivered at the moment it occurred, not read about the next day. He wanted to start a radio station at his newspaper. After making a presentation to his board of directors, the project was approved and Mr. Scripps went to work. The Detroit News contracted the DeForest Radio, Telephone, and Telegraph Company in New York to build a transmitter for the new station. The transmitter was built by Lee DeForest, the inventor of the Audion tube. Lee DeForest built one of his radiophone oscillation transmitter type OT-10 transmitters and delivered it in early summer of 1920. The next step was to set up the radio station and obtain a license to broadcast. William Scripps tapped a teenager he knew named Michael Lyons to set up the new radio station, and Scripps also had Lyons apply for the license. This was done to protect the newspaper from embarrassment if the endeavor failed. As a side note, Michael Lyons would, in time, turn out to be a radio pioneer. Michael, his brother Frank, and Ed Clark, the founder of WJR in Detroit, would later install the first radio in a police car. Using the radio, the police caught a prowler, and the news spread from coast to coast, which sparked the push for radios in police cars. In July of 1920, Michael Lyons set up the transmitter in the Detroit newspaper building, and the new station's antenna was installed on the roof of the building, 290 feet above street level. The new station began broadcasting under the call sign 8MK on August 20th, 1920. The 8 stands for the 8th Radio Inspection District, and the M denotes an amateur license. They tested the new transmitter by broadcasting music for the first 10 days on a frequency of 200 meters, about 1500 on the AM band. Then on August 31st, the station broadcast coverage of the Michigan primaries, with coverage running from 8 p.m. to midnight under the banner of the Detroit News radio service. The broadcast was a success. That was the start of the first regularly scheduled program, the Nightly News, which was on Monday through Saturday at 8 o'clock p.m. On October 13, 1921, the Detroit News radio station, 8MK, was granted a federal commercial broadcasting license, and the government assigned the call sign WBL to the station. In 1922, the station requested the call sign be changed to WWJ because listeners had a hard time making out the station's call sign. Shortly afterward, the request was granted. That same year, on January 28th, the station underwent a major upgrade when a Western Electric 1A 500-watt transmitter was installed. The station's transmitting antenna was also upgraded with the addition of another tower. In addition to broadcasting the first regularly scheduled program, WWJ would bring many other broadcasting firsts to radio. The first sports broadcast, the first vocal concert, the first complete symphony orchestra broadcast, the first commercially sponsored programs, the first missing person appeal for the public's help, the first regularly scheduled religious broadcast, and the first broadcast of a symphony orchestra put together just for radio broadcasting, the Detroit News Orchestra. WWJ was also the first radio station to have a broadcast relayed by an airplane. Many famous people made their radio debut on WWJ. Humorist Will Rogers made his radio debut on the station, as did Babe Ruth and actress Dorothy Gish, along with many others. WWJ is also one of the 11 original affiliates of the first nationwide radio network, the National Broadcasting Company, better known as NBC. One of the questions that comes up among radio enthusiasts is which radio station was the first official radio station on the air. Many people regard radio station KDKA in Pittsburgh as the first licensed American commercial radio station on the air, based on when they were granted a federal limited commercial license. Station KDKA received its limited commercial broadcasting license on October 27, 1920. The station's first broadcast was November 2nd, 1920, reporting on the nation's elections. Others consider station WWJ in Detroit to be the first licensed American commercial radio station on the airways. Radio station WWJ was granted a federal limited commercial broadcasting license on October 13, 1921, about a year after KDKA. As mentioned earlier, WWJ's first broadcast was on August 31, 1920, when the station covered the Michigan primaries. They would argue the fact that since WWJ was broadcasting regularly scheduled programs 2 months before KDKA was on the air, makes WWJ the first American commercial radio station on the air in history. None other than Lee DeForest weighed in on the issue in 1936 when he declared WWJ to be the first commercial radio station on the air. An article in Time magazine, September 3, 1945 issue reported that the National Association of Broadcasters had settled the issue that year, deciding in favor of station WWJ. Which radio station was first? In the end, it depends on how you look at it. One thing is certain, a disagreement over a century old will not end with this video. That's it for this video. There will be more to come as we continue to investigate the early history of the world's first mass medium, radio. Thank you for watching.